Dave Christie, welcome to the business on this point, should we say. So recently joined as owner. Do you want to tell the world what Dave Christie does and how you've got here?
I think I'd like to tell myself a little bit as well. Sometimes it's nice to reminisce back, isn't it? Well, in a quick whistle stop, London born and bred, moved up here.
Didn't know that.
I only spent 38 years there. I know it doesn't look like it.
Oh, the first half.
Just the first. Thank you. Yeah, I need a moisturiser brand to come on board.
But you look well.
38 years there. Played rugby to an average level. Didn't quite make it through, but ended up working for a couple of the rugby clubs full time: London Irish, Saracens, Harlequins.
Just the old chuck a few bigger names in there, mate. Or
well, unfortunately, one of them doesn't exist anymore, which I'm sure has got nothing to do with my coaching. But working on the academy levels and setting up social inclusion programs in there as well, and doing a little bit of giving back. Didn't pay the bills, rugby. There's not a lot of money in it, so there's a lot of love, but not a lot of money. So I used the knowledge from there to get into pharmaceuticals, to get some training.
Yeah.
Because rugby was all about training, learning, coaching, being coached, and I saw the values in that.
Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals, as you know, has got £1 or £2 sitting in its coffers. So put me through lots of training, gap negotiation training, presentation training, even
hated that course.
The gap training.
Oh my God.
The first time you look back at that video.
If it was that, I was just being taught how to be an arsehole while someone else was an arsehole to me.
And the old, this is your calculator is your shield and your pen is your sword.
Mate. Do you know me? Look, I'm not going to make this about me, but Dave, you've known me a long time, so you know where that comment's come from. But I'm not derailing, but yeah, sorry.
I even went on an equine leadership course. I led a horse around a barn for 2 days, and that made me the leader I am today, apparently.
Brilliant.
But even with that, so that got me into kind of sports nutrition.
Yeah.
So they had a brand called Ethics, which Mark Cavendish used to ride for, the Ethics Quick Step team.
Yeah.
I took that back to London Irish, and they became their sports nutrition sponsor. That then led me through to coming to work with other protein brands. So For Goodness Shakes was my first real.
I used to love them, mate. They were banging.
I still do.
Yeah. I haven't seen them about. What have I seen them about? Probably something in the grocery store. But
I now know a little bit more about what's in the ingredients at the back end of them. So I tend to not go there too much. But they're a decent staple go-to.
Yeah.
Protein Dynamics was where I really cut my teeth into the sports nutrition world. They had an e-commerce business. My role was to come in, took over from Ross Carlin.
Ross, we had him on the other day, actually.
Yeah, I watched that podcast. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
And my role was to come in and try and make a mainstream brand out of what was an e-commerce platform.
Yeah.
So we created 2 different brands, got them from concept, from a bit of paper in a hotel restaurant one day, to the shelves of Morrison's. And along the way of that, we also sponsored Eddie Hall, who was the world's strongest man.
Yeah.
Was
this about the time we started to meet, mate?
This was about that time.
Strom era, which is 8-9 years ago now when that started.
Yep, this was. I got introduced to Rick about that time through a rep that I brought on board that had already sold into him previously. This was back in. Well, he was still in the shopping centre.
The shop, mate. It was where we first met. Yes. Yeah. Early days. That was.
So that was where the seed was planted.
Yeah.
And obviously
10 years.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I still look like this then.
Yeah, you did. I'm not. So anyone that he hasn't aged. You actually haven't fucking changed at all.
At 15, I was also looking like this as well. So it has. I've grown into my face. Is kind of what I've done. But my thirst for knowledge and understanding. So I've kind of always worked off this realm that I'm an idiot at heart. And what I mean by that is I've always asked questions.
Yeah,
so I'm not the cleverest person in the room, and I don't want to be the cleverest person in the room. But if I ask a question, I don't know that, I don't understand that. If I ask 100 of them, I know 100 things. If I ask 200 of them, I know 200
But they always lead on to something else, though, right?
That's the beauty.
Yeah. And I think also, mate, it's normalising it in other people's company. We just jested at the beginning of your introduction around, people are nervous to ask questions because it's, for some reason, society's created that it's an outlier of probably stupidity, probably an over-exaggeration of it, when it really isn't.
You talk about, go back to those pharmaceutical days, you sit in these big amphitheatres where people were preaching at you all day long about everything. And then every time you go to, even now, I go into rooms full of small business owners and somebody will do a presentation and they'll end it always with, does that make sense? And nobody puts a hand up.
Yeah.
Like, no one asks a question.
Is that one of the rhetorical ones, isn't it?
Not a chance everybody in that room can understand it. So how do you break it down further? So that's why my kind
And you're very good at it. I think everyone wants to go and have a look. Hopefully we'll come on to what the Cheshire Business Coach is a leading character business that you play, and I think your content's very good at that. I always see something daily where you're challenging someone's thoughts. You break it down to quite an interesting thing. I think we've as you know, many startups have been there, but it's those small thought-provoking questions, not the big stuff. I mean, we were joking, me and Gaz the other day with Richard Branson, like P&Ls and stuff. He couldn't even really pay P&L, could he? And I've been sat in places like Monster, everyone fucking the accountants walking. You're like, great, you couldn't sell shit though, could you? She'd have no P&L to read if we didn't sell something. So it's just vice versa. I think it can be overcomplicated, and you don't need to know everything.
But also, you come into business with a passion.
Yeah.
Something that you love, something that you do, something you're good at.
Yeah.
You don't know the rest.
No.
So you just look around left and right and you copy other people's stuff.
Yeah.
Or you only know what you know.
Yep.
And then people come in and coaches come in and all these gurus that they call, one of the worst terms of it, that's just horrendous, that tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And actually they don't know what you should do because they don't know you.
Your circumstance,
so
your
it's
position.
never, that's why for me, it's like an egoless procedure because it's never about me.
Yeah.
I can't presume you know anything. Yeah. I know you've got an outrageous career in so many different areas, but I still can't presume that you might know anything.
Yeah, no, and I've got a lot of gap. Mate, and I'm probably a great example. I've still got loads of gap. And do you know the other thing? I get skill fade really fucking bad. Like, give me a task to do in a week, and I'll be back.
Yeah, use it or lose it.
Yeah, but I lose it so bloody quick, you know. And it wasn't. I mean, we've just did a podcast. You've seen on the SME Growth podcast. I said to Gaz how we want to grow. Obviously, our podcast with you as part of the team now is being more laser focused at the front end. Dave Parry took me through a lot of questions that were less about it being a platform to talk about my career, which is never the intention, but people normally start there because they're interested, which is very flattering. But now I'm starting to move into the realm, especially after watching some of your content, of what's fucking valuable. How could I give something to someone? And that podcast process that he took me through really started to delve into, like, he's like, well, obviously you must be good at building teams. Yeah, I can do all that. Or creating fucking visions. Well, yeah, I'm definitely good at that. Not in an arrogant way, but you think what some of this stuff is fucking just an idea. And I've got it. I mean, you've known me for a few years. Even with some of this stuff we talked today, I'm saying it's going to be done, and it's nice to have a very experienced person stood next to me going, but we've got to put some timelines. What does it look like? Is that actually going to happen? But yeah, you start to consultative selling, relationship building. Probably the stuff that until I did that podcast the other day, I've probably been dismissive of its value and how hard it could be, because I've put value on maybe being able to fucking do algebra or something.
Well, there's two sides to that. I think if you take the example of what we did this morning, we've talked over email about a scenario that we want to do from a commercial perspective.
Yep.
Everyone's kind of gone, yep, all sounds good.
Yeah.
We're all aligned. And then we do it face to face, and actually you push back and go, Dave,
yeah, confused.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So instead of the joy that I get is going, well, I must not have said that in the right manner for you to understand. How do I change that round so that you rather than just getting frustrated with you going, well, hold on, you're a businessman. How do you not know this? Which is what happens in a lot of times and what we all tend to do.
But you're a very patient person, mate. I'll give you that. No, I'm not.
Well, that's the yin and yang, isn't it?
It is, mate.
That's the two sides of it as well. But it's also the understanding. It's the understanding of what... So you talk about the podcast and the value that it gives. Who are you trying to... Knowing your audience.
Yeah, it is.
And are they a small business owner? What were they?
And that's something he did. He was very particular with me. He said, listen, mate, he said, these are SMEs, sort of middle managers, business owners. And I was like, okay. Because you know, as I lied, we've been there. You're like, oh, shit, now I'm focused because I've been there. Oh, bloody hell. Because other than that, it's a broad net to try and throw information out, right?
It's simple. What do people need to hear? How do you get an emotive connection? And why the hell should they listen to you?
Yeah.
Because if you're talking up here and they're down here...
Because they should.
You're not relatable.
Dave Hamlet.
I mean, that gets you so far.
He's so far.
And it does open some
Anyway,
doors.
right, so I'm going to stop talking about me because we don't get your time much. You're super, super busy.
When I came out of rugby and I looked forward, what I wanted to do was help and support. The context of this is a simple one, and it's an interesting one. It was World Mental Health Day yesterday, and I think it's quite poignant. So I lost my mum when I was 20,
right, and
that changed me. I had fractured relationships with everybody, other family members, but I lost my mum when I was 20. That changes people.
Yeah.
But one thing I remember about her is that she used to help and support others. People would come to her upset and leave happier with a bit more of a plan, and that's kind of my goal.
Yep.
Help and support as many people as possible. So how do I do that? So as a 20-year-old Dave, I looked at how would I do that and where do I get to? So the goal, the Business Academy, Greenbridge, TOG, the coaching was a plan 20 years ago that's just happening. Now, I didn't know that this is what it was going to look like.
Yeah.
But this is what it's been working towards. So it's learning and growing, working in different avenues, working with lots of different types of businesses, 6-month stints here, there, worked at Glanbia for 6 months, helped them change how they did their contract manufacturing, worked with the likes of Skinny Food, with James and Wayne, supported them on some of their growth stuff at the beginning of their journey, and learned everything. Asked questions, learned, failed. And then I'm sharing those learnings. So that the more people I speak to, the more we speak to, the more businesses we speak to, we take those learnings and we share that knowledge.
Yeah.
So in its very essence, it's just knowledge sharing. It's facilitating conversation.
Do you know what? I'll say this, mate. You've done that. You've delivered on that in bags. Because I think from the first time I ever met you, you're very definitely probably one of the most giving people I've ever spoken to, especially with your demeanour, because he's not small if you don't know him. Like, really, you are a big old boy, but you've always been there. Even when we first met, quite patient, very, very calm, always listen. So I'd say, mate, you've delivered that in bags.
It takes a while to understand what your skill sets are. And sometimes you try and force things that aren't there. But actually, when you stop and listen, you realise what you can do. And actually, like you've mentioned there, people are like, because I've not got that ego to, at my point, I don't have to be right. You don't have to do it my way.
Because that's not what serves you purpose, is it?
It's not what serves other people either.
No, you agreed.
So actually, then there's the benefit of thinking, well, okay, I'll lean into this a little bit more. So let's take Greenbridge as an example.
Yep.
So I have my food and drink business, Take on Goliath. It helps and supports small businesses, small brands. Take on the Giants, that's the name.
Yep.
Makes the name Dave a little bit more interesting at the same time. But there's quite a lot of Daves at my age group. There's always a Dave in every office. So Take on Goliath.
Here.
There's one, and then there's me. I'll be Dave number 2. I think we're all agreed on that one. But actually, it was to help. It was a vessel to help and support small businesses understand how they can take on some of the giants around them, whether that be on the shelf, whether that be on their voice, whether that be the communicative side, or whether that be just in their own mentality. But that can only get me so far because I'm a man on my own doing that. So then you look around you at people that are doing things good in the same space and think, well, where's the synergies?
Yep.
And where are the gaps? So obviously we've been talking for a while now, and actually you've got this place, you've got the warehouse, you've got all the elements that brands need, but haven't got the bit that TOG has.
Yeah.
So then you think, well, and it's not quite nothing's a natural fit. Nothing just fits like a glove. So there's little bits that we have to trim off, and there's little ways to look at things, and that's where the kind of that step back ego comes from. And I always like to have a little step back at things and think, well, what's next? How can that work, and how can that serve?
You said this on the phone when we were talking, and then I was cut you off, and it was quite good. She said, look, it's always just quite enjoyable. Most people find my passion and energy quite overpowering, which I know. But you just said the other day, you're like, listen, I just know we'll chew the fat, bash some ideas around, but we'll always get to a good point and quite quickly.
It's difficult in business sometimes to have difficult conversations.
Yeah.
We're not comfortable with being uncomfortable.
No.
So people can get off the phone, and I can imagine quite easily, and I'm sure you already know, that people can get off the phone and go, oh, he doesn't really like me.
Yeah,
I've really annoyed him. And actually, you're not even thinking about that. You're on to the next thing.
Yeah, completely.
Because it's like, that was a conversation. It was a business conversation. It's done now. We've moved on.
Yeah.
There is none of that. So actually, that comes from that understanding part of going, well, actually, I know where you're coming from.
Goal-orientated, not emotionally-orientated.
And also, it's a good balance because you pull things across while there's an area of being able to look at it from a different perspective. And that's why it works so well.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's why when we mentioned about Greenbridge, which I know still is slightly bitter taste in your mouth at the same time, doesn't it?
I've never missed revenue. Well, I probably have. That's an overstatement. But yeah, I've said this. I think I talked about it the other day. If anything, it's quite nice. Gaz and I have been here dragging this thing from the dirty blue room it was 2 years ago with nothing in the warehouse to where we've got it now, and it's still not perfect. It definitely can't. We've had a fucking up and down week this week, but it's nice to be working with someone that's able just to slot straight in, pay that personal professional etiquette between men. Do you know what I mean? Where it's a high stress environment, but also spot gaps that I just didn't spot. So for you just to kind of say, well, it needs to look at this was great. And then, mate, already I've had a lot of people around me the last 2 years that have made commitments, talked about equity, delivered on fuck all, which we all know. It's a different place, isn't it, when you own a business and you become part of it. So you don't work for anyone. I look at anyone that's owned something with me that's creating that vision. It's fucking, we're working together. It's not about fucking who's more important than anyone else. So, refreshing as hell, mate. One, I've always valued and commended the way your brain works, your experience. You're a bit older than me. I don't know, how old are you?
46.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, you're only 4 years. I'm the youngest in the room. Anyway, I digress. But no, for you guys to come in and just the Greenbridge stuff and mate, you've delivered in bags and so quickly, which was never in date.
But that comes if you look at where I was and where Take on Goliath was, because I ask lots of questions for my brands. I ask lots of questions in the industry. Wherever I am, I want to learn. So if it wasn't for that learning, I wouldn't know where the gaps were. So I work with a number of brands. I've got retailers knocking at the door saying, can we not buy them all from you directly? I could just dismiss that and say, no, that's not what I do.
Yeah.
But actually, there's an opportunity.
Yep.
Why do I keep saying no to things?
Yeah.
The door keeps being knocked. So it's then having the open eyes to look for those opportunities, which obviously you were doing simultaneously, because we didn't come into Greenbridge. It was something that we created in a conversation, finding a way to help and support other people, because it became customer centric first and us kind of second. What can we do to support people?
Yeah.
So then Greenbridge provides that avenue that makes the journey for the clients that we're trying to work with better.
Yeah.
And that's in the essence, that's that green bridge. It's the bridging the gap from a sustainable value between the brands and the retailers by listening to both sides.
Yeah.
So I work with quite closely and TOG is a partner of Health Store UK. Health Store UK is the Association of Health Food Stores. So I coach the store owners. I go and do walkthroughs.
And just explain to everyone what's that look like in terms of what's the group size, store owner base, membership size, that sort of thing.
So there's 800 or so independent health food stores in the UK. I think it's about 150 stores that are into the health food store as an associate member, but anyone can access it. Any health food store does, and they regularly run webinars and events, trade shows, etc., where they have touch points with stores all over the country to find out what their needs are.
Yeah.
But what had worked up until that point was the stores would have their meetings and the brands would have their meetings, and never the two will meet.
Right.
Until they got to a trade show and it was just price, discount, price, POS.
Yeah.
That was the only conversations that was there. Not ever around having the time to go, how can I help and support you?
Yeah.
What support do you need? What can you do for us? That conversation was never happening. So actually recently we've changed the masterclasses that are within the Health Store UK to talk about how shop windows can work, how to run your shop. I do walkthroughs to show them how brands can help and support them.
Yep.
What's available from more than just those top 5 brands that are doing really well. They've got bags of money. They're throwing POS out into shop windows. Actually going, well, actually, the shop window's not for you, your customer. That blew their mind.
Yeah.
Shop windows for passing trade.
Which for us is really obvious, isn't it? But like you say, then the shop owner, sometimes you can't see the wood from the trees, I guess.
Well, if I'm a shop owner and I've got my biggest supplement companies that have got the most money throwing POS at me to put in their windows, and it's big 4-foot size, empty boxes of stuff, I'm going to put it in there.
Yeah.
Because that looks great. But I'm only thinking about the things that are in front of me because it's been given to me. I'm not strategically thinking around, who's this shop window for? What's the message I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
The interesting one recently was Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah, with the old lines, mate.
You mentioned his name in the health food trade. Doesn't sit very well. Gas guzzler, not very eco-credentials. He's not been exactly an advocate for sustainable living.
Look, he's probably the single biggest reason the boost in lines, mate.
But then people were going, well, I'm not going to put that in my shop window because it's Jeremy Clarkson. I'm like,
Strange.
I'll put a whole range of mushrooms in, or they'll talk about other things, and they won't dial into what's important. That's where we come in.
Yeah.
That's where we bridge that gap. That's where we start helping people. So it's not just a delivery service. We're not just shifting boxes.
Yeah.
In essence, we are, but we're not just shifting boxes. We're actually showing people how to sell their boxes in and showing others how to sell them out.
Yeah.
So now we're creating a bit of a circular economy where everybody gets to win rather than it all being siloed.
And right now, what are we at Greenbridge-wise? Launching week commencing 21st, did we agree about 15 minutes ago?
Yes, it's a solid 15-minute plan. Nothing's changed since then.
No.
Launch on the 21st. We've got a dozen or so brands currently, so a soft launch to make sure that everything works.
Yep.
Because let's face it, nothing ever goes exactly to plan.
And that's what I love the best about working with you. We can pivot.
There will be some areas of growth. We've spoken to the brands that are involved. They're willing to grow with us and learn that. We've got a little bit of a pipeline of brands that are already interested in coming on board. And that is positive because it shows that there's a willingness and a desire and a need.
Yeah.
We've also got, from the other side, retailers that we're speaking to that are also waiting for us to come to them and launch because they've shown an interest as well for exactly the same reason.
It's exciting.
Because it's not just a Me Too product.
No.
It's not just a sell. It actually, with the brands that come on board, have to support. They have to support on social media. They have to support the stores and the retailers in the right manner. And they have to understand what it takes to drive and grow their business. And if you don't caveat that, it sounds harsh, but you're not for us right now.
Yep.
The interesting thing for that then comes with Business Academy and the other side of things, where we can actually put and help and support those businesses and brands to put those things in place.
Yep.
To say, go away, come back in 6 months, come back with those things, then we'll see if we can help you again. So it's not just shut the door.
And even do it. You brought us on to another thing. So the second project is the Business Academy, isn't it? Which in its first iteration would be, it's a tradie orientated, would be the right description?
Yeah, I'm not a tradie orientated person. In fact, if you looked at my house, you can see there's things I've attempted that I should never have attempted.
This is going to be valuable. You're going to end up literally for favours left, right and centre.
That's the only reason I'm doing it, by the way. Yeah. It's just to get my house done up bit by bit.
So I, however, and also Gaz, so I'm an ground worker, so is Gaz. So I think there's 2 iterations to this as well. And this is a beautiful thing about you and I working on this. The first one here is providing a service to the tradesman that is a business academy in its function. It's low-level entry financially, engaged with properly and used well, I think is going to be rewarding. So we'll help with things like website creation, website development, social media management, some admin support, basic Google advertising, things like that. With the ability as we grow and we add to it to really start to support, it also creates cohorts of 15 tradesmen, whereby we'll pull them together for regularly monthly meetings. I think that's where we start. It's going to be 199 plus the VAT per month for the first 5 customers. We're going to take it to 15. It'll be 299, so it's just less than 300 quid a month. You have an account manager support, and I think the real thing that leads into or lends into your skill set even further is, what does the Business Academy look like then, looking into the world of commerce, I guess.
I think even that initial bit, it's letting people do what they love and letting us do the rest.
Yeah.
I want to know, when I was as a small business owner, I loved coaching. I love supporting businesses. I don't love accounts. I don't love website building. No. And you've seen the website that I tried to build, and the less that we talk about that, the better. But in my mind at the time, that's the best I could do.
Yep.
And I hadn't got the money to afford the £2,000-3,000 it might take to build one, or the local businesses that were telling me there's £300 a month for my social media, or it's £500 for this, and that's scary numbers when you're starting out, and you just want to get on with your job.
Yep.
So actually having somewhere all under one roof, that's one contact, one phone call, one engagement, one platform that takes care of all of that side of your business. It's peace of mind for business owners that want to be. That's why we talked about the trades first off, because they're out on the tools. Yeah, they're doing their job. They're coming home and going, right, well, now I'm going to just do a social media post.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything worse, mate. I've been on the shovel all day thinking, right, I'll check the website and do some social media posts and that. And
well, my trading knowledge is limited, but even I'm thinking, well, even just like getting cleaned up after being out all day long, the last thing you want to do is go, right, let's sit down and be mentally focused to talk about.
Yeah, agreed.
It's not there. So actually, but then that's still important to you, just because you don't know how to do it or haven't got the time to do it, or sometimes the inclination. It's still important to you and your business. So actually knowing that's being taken care of is the peace of mind that allows you then to focus on what you love to do.
And dovetailing it with the ability you have got control. So anytime you do want to get involved, the account management team that we have is going to be behind it. We will support, the monthly network meetings that we'll organise will come with value. There's opportunities for masterclasses. I think depending how much of this content you've seen of mine or Dave's from our respective careers, it comes in spades. No pun intended there either.
You hit the nail on the head with that one.
We could do this all day. I'll just dig my way out of this one. So the other thing is you coined it, and at 299 quid a month, most tradies, that's what a day's work. I think if you can afford to not have to take a day off and still look for a reasonable opportunity to grow your business. I mean, just the fact we're putting cohorts of 15 tradesmen together, we both know that's going to generate more work, more interest, and for those businessmen that are trying to scale from maybe just 1-2 man bands into something different, this should be perfect.
The other side of it is it levels up the area.
Yes.
If every business levels up, then the business levels up and the growth levels up, and we're keeping that money in this region, so we don't have to go to the Philippines to go and look for someone to build a website. We can keep the money in the UK. We can keep the money in the county,
Yep.
so which is great for the local economy at the same time. And it also creates jobs as well, because hopefully we're expanding businesses that they can bring on people.
Yeah.
We can create networks, not just within the 15 cohorts, but we're talking to local councils, schools, universities. Where's the next apprentice coming from? Where's that
Yes.
next opportunity coming from? It's far more than just we'll do your social media. It's far more as a group than just we're looking after that one person. We're creating communities
Yeah.
and supporting them to first of all, let's not forget, just survive.
Survive, which is
It's brutal out there.
cost of living and stuff. For listening to this morning that's got onto that LBC. So that's the bit.
Here's the trick. I don't believe in it.
Now you're on to a whole nother topic. No, neither do I. What was Tesco's profit up from 81 million to 2.1 billion? I mean, how the hell did that happen?
Well, if I keep it in small business, this is where I like to keep it within. We've had a little protective shield around us for quite some time. So Brexit was the first one. So times are tough. Brexit. So that's an excuse for my business perhaps not performing as it should do. COVID was another one. The next one was the wars. There's cost of wars, and then the next one was cost of living. Some of the reality and the harsh reality is your business just wasn't working.
Yes.
But we've had all these excuses that have kept us carrying on, not perhaps allowed us to focus on some of the important parts like social media or website or lead gen.
Yep.
Because
The basics.
Because this shield has been here that has said, well, the world is just tough.
What's the point?
I can't compete.
Yeah.
And it's not my business. It's just the environment. And actually, it turns out it is your business, because every business can pivot, every business can flex, and every business can look at new and different ways.
Yeah.
But if there is this excuse sitting there, we don't do that. So actually, with something like the Business Academy, we can teach and show people how to pivot,
Yep.
how to flex, and how to take advantage of these situations rather than use them as an excuse.
And I think that's a good one, mate. Taking advantage. We both know that some of the most successful businesses you can think will come out of an economic downturn. It's just where the opportunity presents itself. It's back to that red car syndrome, you know. Have you seen any red cars lately? Probably not. I bet you will when you go and drive your car now. You're like, they're bloody everywhere. It's just focusing your mind to spot things that are positive to the ambition or goal I think we set ourselves. So that's the Business Academy. I'm excited to get it going. We put a date on that. I should know. I wrote it down. 2 weeks.
Well, I think it's going to be within the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.